We're looking for cities whose recent population growth and future population growth is expected to outperform overall US population growth. We know that that is a huge driver for rent increase, rent growth, and property value appreciation. So those people that economies are circular. So you tend to see population growth where there's job growth, and job growth where there's population growth, and they're sort of mutually supportive. And where you see one, you usually find the other, and that's what's happening to different degrees, right? But it's all there. We're seeing that in Phoenix. We're seeing that in Salt Lake City. We're seeing that to a certain extent in Denver. We're seeing that in Austin and Dallas, and we're focused on these higher growth metros, which have historically been perceived as sort of secondary markets, but that's what gives them room to grow, right? That they're not maxed out from the standpoint of the infrastructure has got all it can take, right? The primary gateway markets, LA, San Francisco, New York, you've got a huge issue. Like, where do you grow? You just have natural constraints to growth. The density and the populations are already so big that they don't have a lot of room to go from there. So those are constraints, and those kinds of constraints tend to highly correlate with higher regulation, which again is another impediment to being able to enter a market, produce real estate, do development, and deliver product. So that's, those are the markets that we're looking at. Sacramento is a really interesting market because California has sort of a media reputation, for high, because it's in California. There's high taxes, blue state, regulation, like all that stuff. But the reality is that Sacramento is functioning like any one of those secondary high growth markets outside of like the Phoenixes, Salt Lakes, and Denver's, because it's a smaller metro. It's receiving the benefit of the Bay Area. The rent growth has been phenomenal. The job growth has been very strong. And so that's another market where we want to be active. It's important also in an inflationary environment where costs are inflating. So we know that, everybody knows you try and order something, hard goods are on back order, that we have supply chain problems. We've got supply chain backups and bottlenecks. So trying to import stuff, getting it through the ports, that's hard. There's backups there. Plants get shut down due to COVID. We're still ramping up on the supply. It's going to be years for the supply chain to even out. And, construction is comprised of labor and materials, the materials being national commodities and things that funnel through the supply chain. So you meet those cost increases and that kind of inflation in any market where you go. The price, there's some small regional differences, but lumber is a commodity, steel is a commodity, and when steel goes up, it doesn't matter where you live, that the price of the good is going up. The labor markets are local, and we want to be able to do business in markets where the rent growth can at least keep pace, if not exceed, the inflation for construction and costs of what we call creating value, right? The cost of creating value, it could be a value add, it could be full-blown construction from the ground up, but those costs are inflating and we need the rents to keep up with that. And we're not seeing that in the primary markets. Right? Those market that people already, they pay so much in rent, whether it's business rent or household rent. They're already maxed out in a way that you can't push that anymore. So don't you want to be in a market where the rents are actually, in the markets where we're operating, the rents are exceeding the inflation, the core inflation growth. Industrial and multifamily for all of the locations that we've mentioned. There's a bit of a qualification. I would say that we're a bit more selective on the industrial side for Salt Lake and Denver, because the metros are not as big and they are not as interconnected. They have the geographic boundaries, which are also logistic boundaries. So, right, like Phoenix, Phoenix may soon become part of the supply chain back into Southern California, because of the way the dynamics of land. Like the price of industrial real estate in Southern California is getting so high. Some companies are looking at locating in Phoenix, right? You offload off the ports in Long Beach and LA. You truck it to Phoenix because it's cheaper. Then you truck it right back into Southern California because of the constraints and the costs in Southern California. I mean, we're still long on Southern California, like Inland Empire industrial. It's just crazy competitive. It is very competitive. So like Phoenix, Fort Worth, Dallas, right? They're all along that 10 freeway that starts, at the ports. Whereas, you truck logistics out to Salt Lake or out to Denver. There's not a lot of sort of contiguous major metros to go from there. So it's just a matter of being a bit more selective. We're still long on the logistics. We'll be more selective in the opportunities that we move forward with. One thing that we've seen in the numbers of any one of these places relative to like LA, where we're based, is that households are spending, 15, maybe 20% of their income on housing. And so they've got a lot of room to grow.